You guys, I have a very special guest here tonight. I know a lot of you are very excited to see him. He's been in a million things. I don't even know how to choose which ones to say, but he was in A Serious Man by the Coen brothers. He's in Lady Dynamite playing my manager. And he's going to be in the next season of Arrested Development. He's been in 7 Woody Allen movies. And on and on and on. So please welcome Fred Melamed. Sorry, we're not that technical around here. Welcome. There, you can use that one.
Thank you.
Right? Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm delighted to be here. I've always been so enamored and impressed by comedians. I mean, it's something foreign to me. I have lots of friends who do it, but I have great admiration and for the courage and the other things that it takes. I relate to everybody. I mean, I had a full Brazilian on the way over here.
Oh yeah, comedy is so hard for you. So hard. So, did you ever try stand-up, or?
I tried it once years and years ago when I was in drama school. This was a long, long time ago. I wish there was a funny payoff to this, but there isn't. David Allen Greer, who I'm sure many of you know, was a classmate of mine in drama school, and he was great, and he did stand-up, so I thought I would try it with him. And I have all the more respect now for people who can do it. It's so, it's just you and them, and it's very different than what I normally do as an actor. But.
Right, well, Lee and I were talking about how funny it is with, when people expect to laugh, it's like reverse psychology, they don't want to laugh. Whereas if a musician comes out and they just say anything, it's a laugh. I'm not saying she said just anything. I'm just saying, or at a funeral or a wedding, it's very easy to get laughs at a funeral, by the way. Very easy. So, but anyway, I think that you could probably do it very easily because you're just naturally very truthful, and I think a lot of comedy is about truth, the truth of the moment. Right?
I agree with you, but I mean, I think it's a strange combination of things that it takes to be funny. I won't bore the people who are kind enough to be sitting in the audience by explaining it, but I mean, I hear people that are truthful today doing stand-up, but the things they're truthful about are such tropes that it's not really. I mean, what are the tropes you hear? I'm a whore now. You hear that all the time. I'm so insecure, and yet I deserve to be a star. They're essentially revisitations of what's the deal with airline food. Just they're 30 years later.
Yeah. So what kind of jokes do you like?
That's a good question. I like jokes that are truly revelatory about things, that reveal what is really true, but also it has to also be funny. It's a tough combination.
Yeah, I think people should start with the truth, and then if it happens to be funny, it's bonus.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Anyway, so back to you, though. We're not talking about comedy. We're talking about you and acting and everything you've done, which is an amazing body of work.
It's enormously shocking. It's absolute proof that there's no accounting for taste.
It seems like you've been acting pretty much your whole life. You got into Yale drama school. Was that when your first experience, or you were acting before Yale?
Yeah, no, I started out when I was, in high school and college and all that stuff. And when I was in college, I met these two interesting women. They had a company called Shakespeare and Company, Kristen Linklater and Tina Packer. So when I got out I went to Hampshire College, hippie college.
Oh, nice.
And then I joined their company for a year, and then I went up and I decided I needed to really study more, so I went to drama school after that.
Great, and Yale's very competitive though to get into. How do you think you got in?
They were trying some experiments with unusual types. So it's something I quickly straightened them out about.
I didn't mean it like you didn't deserve to get it. I just meant it's that, even that is a huge accomplishment. I mean, that's, if you get into Yale or Juilliard, it seems like you're pretty, you're on the right track. Right?
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, I'm delighted that I got in, I'm delighted that I did it. It's really like any other place in that the people who are really interesting and really good stay for a year or two and then take off and do their thing. Most of the people who are the lifetime teachers were less impressive.
They say that about Berklee School of Music too, that anyone that dropped out of college, they became, famous, but if they finished, nope. Not gonna happen. You have an amazing voice. I had some jokes about my voice that were self-deprecating, maybe tropes, I'm not sure. But, I'm just curious, how much work did you do on your voice, or is your voice just your natural, was this always your voice? Because it's a real, you really have an amazing voice.
Thank you. It's kind of you to say. It's a double-edged sword. When I was a young guy, I did a lot of voiceover work, and I was very fortunate to get to do that. And then when I got older and had more responsibilities and was married and had children and stuff like that, then my kind of voice, the sort of deep, James Earl Jonesy voices, were very much out of fashion.
Really?
Yeah. So I found myself strangely bereft of work for many years because of the kind of voice that I have. Yeah.
Interesting, because so I listened to your Mark Maron podcast, which, by the way, was fascinating.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
I just talked to Mark Maron today. I'm sort of friendly with Mark Maron to the extent that anybody can be said to be friendly with Mark Maron. And I was talking to him because I started watching Glow, this new show that he has, on Netflix.
Oh, he's on that? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what's hip these days.
He didn't send you the email? He's on it, and he's very good on it, and I was, congratulating him, and he was very nice about it, and he said, yeah, it's terrific. So, he's finally getting over that hump of actually sort of being semi-famous, which I'm in the same, position of, approaching being semi-famous. And he said, what do you think of that? And I was thinking, wow, yeah, all those years of bitter masturbation actually pay off. So young folks, keep at it.
Keep masturbating, whatever you do.
Bitterly.
Don't stop masturbating.
Cursing everyone who doesn't recognize how brilliant you are. Eventually it worked.
But it was, I hope you don't mind if I recommend people listen to it, because I just thought it was every moment, usually when I listen to podcasts or things, I kind of zone out or I stop halfway through, and I was just glued to my computer listening, thinking, you're not only an actor, but you're a very interesting person.
Very
fucked up, but which makes you interesting. But you're very interested in psychology, which also interests me, just the way people work, and you were saying that, you think people are divided between people who think that they're naturally lovable and people who think they have to earn it.
Yes.
Right? And you felt you were in the category of having to earn it, which I also feel. And I'm wondering how much...
Don't you think performers in general, I mean...
Yeah, I feel like, you wouldn't be in it.
What kind of people need strangers to tell them they're okay?
Yeah, right.
And that's starting off with a healthy population. I mean, I'm not saying it's very sage, but I think that everybody kind of knows that that's true.
If we thought we were lovable, we'd be accountants or something.
We'd seek it in the normal channels that people do. Right?
Yes, yeah. So you feel that, that's kind of what I was going to ask, is do you think that's sort of a natural part of being a performer, is kind of that sort of feeling like having a hole in your soul?
Well, I think that's a slightly corny rendering. But I think it's essentially true. But I think that's also that's why people build buildings and made the pyramids and all that stuff. I think everybody accomplishes things to drop a pebble in a pool and see the ripples go. That's why people do everything. Yeah,
and how much of your interest in psychology is helpful with your acting? Do you feel that studying people and the way your mind works and doing your own therapy and everything, do you think that helps with your acting?
Well, I think my interest in psychology stemmed from trying to dig myself out of the misery of my early life, like a lot of other people. But I'm interested in people.
Yeah.
You know, people are really interesting to me, like how they can tell themselves the things that they tell themselves, you know, the extraordinary twists that people have to do with reality to
Hope.
get through.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuff is really interesting to me. So that's a big part of why acting is so interesting, is because it's all about, you know, you never, one of the sort of cardinal rules of acting is that you never judge the characters that you play. You try and experience life as they do.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think has made me a little bit more understanding of people and how they get to the extreme positions that people sometimes get to in life. But that's what's so interesting about it. It's all about people.
Yeah, I agree. So just to talk about your projects a little bit, and I don't want to be too vague with my questions, but what was it like to work with some of the best directors of all time? You know, like the Coen brothers, Woody Allen.
It was a gas. It was
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, the Coens were particularly surprising to me because I knew them a little bit because I had gone to school with Frances McDormand and John Turturro.
She's one of my favorite actresses.
Mine too.
Yeah.
But I knew her, you know, years and years before she was, you know, well, she got famous young because she started with them young. But so I kind of knew their retinue, you know, people in their films. But I was really surprised because I was a fan of theirs, and their films are so orchestrated seeming, you know, everything about them is so well worked out. I was really surprised when I got on the set with them that they kind of let you run. They like you to stick very specifically to the words that they write. They don't like you to, you know, throw in your own little funny things like I like to do. But they, within that, if you stick to the words that they've written, they give you a great deal of freedom about your performance. And that was shocking to me, and a very happy surprise. And the guy in the movie the first movie that I did with them, A Serious Man, right? The guy that played the main character, Larry, this guy Michael Stuhlbarg, was already a friend of mine. I knew him already.
Oh.
So that was a very lucky, you know, coincidence, which was great.
How did you get that part?
Well, I was sitting at home with my wife one day, and this is in the period when I was not working much at all, and I'd gone from making a lot of money and doing a lot of work in voiceovers to then having a really fallow period, as people do in our business, and it was kind of a rough time. I had been the voice of CBS Sports for a number of years, which was a great gig. It was 2 afternoons a week, a total of 8 hours, 2 4-hour days, $8,000 a week. I did that. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm trying to make my rent too. I rent here in Los Angeles. My rent is $11,300. If one of you really likes me, I don't have any records to say. Anyway,
Just a line?
so I had this great gig, and then they changed. The boss of CBS Sports left, and I was fired along with many other people. This happens in television; it's no big shock. But by that time, I had 2 kids. I had a son with autism. I had a wife. I had a lot of responsibilities, and I went from, you know, all of a sudden I was making like $8,000 a year, $11,000 a year, and I had a lot of serious worries about it. And then one day I was sitting at home with my wife, and the phone rang, and she got it, and she said, "Do you know a Joel Coen?" And I happen to know an accountant named Joel Coen. And I said, "Joel Coen the accountant? Or Joel Coen?"
Or someone who's going to change my life.
She says, Joel and Ethan Coen. So I got on the phone, and Joel Coen was there. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Fine." And I had auditioned for Barton Fink about 15 or 20 years before that. So but that's many, many years before that. So Joel Coen got on the phone and he said, "Listen, we've written this movie. It's called A Serious Man. There's a part in it. It's not a huge part, but it's kind of very key to the story. And I just have a feeling that you would be really good in this part. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Let me check my book." "Yes, I think I'd be interested in that one. Joel, can I come and see you?" So I went. And I went to New York and I talked with them, and they talked to me. They said, "We're not going to audition anybody else. We want you to do it.
Wow.
The only problem is we don't know when we're going to get to it because we have 3 movies that we're making simultaneously, and we have to. And one of them was Burn After Reading, which is a big star-studded one with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. They had to do it based on when they could get the stars.
Yeah.
So I was about broke at this point. So another year passed.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I thought, oh fuck, this is gonna never happen. As happens with
that's
movies.
the worst.
And then finally I got a call, and you know, it was I was so thrilled, and I went and did it, and it was great.
That's amazing.
Lovely.
So patience pays off.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Good point. Let's talk a little bit about Lady Dynamite, because
Yeah.
you play this wonderful, quirky character who's based on my manager, Bruce Smith, who's
The
here tonight.
wonderful,
Yes,
talented,
wonderful, amazing manager who is, this is an exaggeration of him, this isn't him, but it's based on him. So what's it like, working with Maria, and tell me a little bit about that, experience.
I hate to be boring, but it's truly, truly wonderful. Maria, I was a fan. Maria was a huge star to me before I ever met her. I did a movie many years ago with Patton Oswalt. So Patton Oswalt said to me, "Do you know my friend Maria?" I said, "No." So he said, "Well, I made this movie with her, A Comedian's a Comedy, or check it out." So I did, and I thought she was so brilliant and unusual and really, really just not like any comedian, to me, the most exalted tier of comedians, like Richard Pryor, the absolute greatest. But I was a fan, and that's it. I never met her, I never knew her. And then this is when we lived in New York. And then about 4 years ago, we moved to LA, my wife and kids and me, and I was cast on a sitcom, a USA sitcom, called Benched, which was a legal sitcom, which Maria also happened to be on also. And we just got to be friends, and I told her, how great I thought she was, and it was interesting to me because she's so good at characters, she's really, as people who know her, we're talking about Maria Bamford.
Impressions.
Her vocal stuff is unbelievably good, and but was very insecure about acting, which I found very surprising. So, we talked about it and this and that. We were friends, and then the show lasted 1 year and it got canceled, as they do. And then
I heard it was good. I heard it was really good.
Yeah, it was an interesting show. A mutual friend of ours wrote it and produced it and all that, and but that was the end of it, and as sometimes happens. And then I got a call from Mitch Hurwitz.
I love how everything starts with a call.
Yeah.
Got a call.
Me too.
Got a call.
Me too, not an audition, a call.
Yeah, wow, that's the
great.
best, yeah.
Fantastic. So I get this call from Mitch Hurwitz's office saying, "We want you to come in and
Who
talk
did
to us."
Arrested Development?
He's the guy who produces, the creator of Arrested Development. We'd like you to come in and talk to us about this show with Maria. So I figured, oh great, I'm going to audition, it's going to be a show with Maria. I didn't know anything about it. So the day that I was supposed to go to see Mitch's office, I got this horrible stomach flu.
Oh no.
Miserable. I could barely make it to the bathroom from I was really had a fever and everything. So I called them up and I said, "Oh, listen, I'm so sorry. I just woke up with this stomach thing. I feel lousy and I can't come today." They said, "That's okay. That's all right." And I thought, oh God, I'm gonna miss this, because the way Hollywood works is they're gonna see 90 other people and they're gonna fall in love with somebody, and that's gonna be the end of that. So about a week later, they called back and they said, "Are you feeling better?" I said, yeah, I know, I feel fine, I feel great. They said, "Well, how about coming in?" So this was a shock to me. So I said, "Sure, absolutely, I'll be right there." So I didn't know exactly what the story was, but I knew it involved Maria, so I had all these things prepared to say about how wonderful Maria is, and how much I love her, and how talented she is, and all this stuff. And so I get to Mitch's office, and there's a casting director there that I know, and she says to me, "Do you know what this is about?" And I said, "Well, no." She said, "Well, they just hired me. I don't know what it's about either." We'll find out together. So I walk in, and there sitting in the room is Maria. So I said to Maria, "Hi." I said, "I had all these things prepared to say about how great you are, but here you are." She said, "Oh, go ahead, it's okay." So Mitch said to me, "Listen, we have this show. It's called Lady Dynamite. It's all about Maria, and we want you to play Bruce, her manager." And at the time, I didn't know Bruce yet, the real Bruce. I said, "You want me to play it?" They said, "Yeah, we're not auditioning anybody. We just want you to do it." And that's unheard of for a real. It's not a pilot. Oh, he said, "Well, they bought 13 episodes. It's not a pilot. It's already done. It's a done deal." So I was like, I couldn't hardly walk.
Oh wow.
Anyway, it was great. And then we did it. And then Maria told me, once we started working on it, it wasn't my extraordinary ability, she just liked me.
Well, that's a huge thing.
Show.
That kind of helps a lot if people like you.
It taught me, like, be nice to people.
Yeah.
Good lesson.
Yeah, I have a saying, like, always be nice to everyone because you never know the person you wish that you had been nice to will be. Who the person you wish, you know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, and besides,
just be nice.
Well, it's a gas to be an actor. People complain about it. Like it always makes me laugh. I once complained to my agent about, something happened and it was bad, and I was complaining about it, and things aren't going the way I want, and I'm not getting the kind of parts that I want. And he said to me, Fred, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're a movie star. You're a tiny little movie star.
No kidding.
Stop complaining. I went, right. What's the matter with me? It's so great to be able to do something that I genuinely enjoy. And I have to agree with Meryl Streep that the best part of it is you get to hang out with people that are great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really fun. And I'm very lucky, to be frank, that at this part of my life, I'm 61 years old now, most people are hanging it up.
Really? That's young now.
Well, it depends how you look at it, but I got this whole second kind of act to my career, which I had it was a total shock, total surprise, and I'm extremely grateful for it, and I truly enjoy it.
That's great. I have one last question before I let you go. I'd love to talk to you more and more, but we have to leave. Just tell me a little bit about the show that you created, The Preservationist.
Yeah.
It's a TV series you wrote, and... Yeah,
it's a show. It actually has not been sold yet, but I'm in the process of talking to a couple of big streaming outfits about it. It's a television show which I wrote as a feature initially, and then was told it would be a good idea to expand it for television. It was inspired by the true story of a friend of mine, one of my close friends from college, who was very famous in the world of very, very expensive, rare maps, particularly early maps of the Americas. He was kind of beloved in this world. He was extremely knowledgeable about it, and he had this great sort of magnetism, really charismatic character. And everybody knew him and liked him in this world, and after about 25 years at the top of this world, he was caught stealing from the Beinecke Library, which is the rare book library at Yale, and eventually he admitted to having stolen over $7 million worth of maps. He's the most prolific document thief in history. What's so interesting about him is at the personal level, you can't find anybody to say much bad about him. He had this unusual compulsion. He surrounded himself with people who were often very bright, talented people, but whose lives, for one reason or another, hadn't turned out right. And he thought he had this kind of responsibility to make life seem like a winnable proposition to them. So he did that by example, sometimes helping them with money, sometimes with other things. But he wasn't like a Madoff who had to get his name in the paper. He had no interest in that. He literally believed that if he were just a man, he would vanish. He had this strange, that the thing we started talking about initially.
Yeah,
some people have to earn this thing.
Yeah.
He really believed that. And he believed that the way he had to do it was by...
stealing maps.
Well, he didn't want to become famous as a thief, he wanted to become famous as a map expert. And he took a lot of the money, and he bought up a lot of this town in Maine, which had been a very poor, depressed town, and he made it into this beautiful tourist destination. He bought this thing that had been a Christian Science reading room, he made it into this beautiful bed and breakfast, and he made a beautiful antique shop. And at first it was this kind of Walt Disney-esque world. People loved him. But he started telling people how to live in this town. And like, we don't want a commercial boat dock, it's too tacky. And people started resenting the shit out of him. Because he had this idea of how it should be. So he got into all these legal battles with people. And a lot of the money was used to maintain this fight. I'll tell you just one other thing about him that we find out in the story. He doesn't know how to, he's a lovable, sweet person, but he can't look at people at eye level. It's not the way he relates to other people. his wife and he, when we meet him in the story, are in the middle of the beginning of a breakup. They're breaking up. His wife's an alcoholic, also the daughter of a very, very kind of nasty alcoholic, his wife. And she goes to AA and she stops drinking. And when she stops drinking, she has this exciting new part of her life, and she desperately wants Chapman, the main character, to kind of accompany her in this new, exciting, promising part of her life when she no longer drinks. The problem is, he's unable to sleep with her anymore, because once she's not a rescue, he can't really relate to her, although he loves her. It's not that he doesn't want to.
He has to be like a hero type.
Exactly. He doesn't know how to be a man.
Would you play the character?
When I first wrote it, I thought I would, but now, A, I'm a little too old for it, and B, it's too much to actually run that show, produce it.
Yeah.
So I had it with Philip Seymour Hoffman when it was a feature, who would have been perfect for it. Unfortunately, can't get the area code anymore. But he would have been wonderful. But anyway, for television, it could be somebody else. So I'm very excited to do it. It's not a comedy, although most of what I do is comedy. So I'm very, very excited to, and I'm excited that it's gotten the kind of good reception that it has. So if and when it's on the air,
yeah, please let us know. Yeah. Well, do you want to take one question from the crowd?
Sure.
Does anybody have a question? Please. Brave soul. Yes, Eddie?
So you just said that you do a lot of comedy type stuff. Is this like your first, well, I wouldn't call it the first, but what made you want to tell the story in a dramatic fashion as opposed to maybe like a comedy or a dark comedy? That's something that you're used to, from what I gathered. What was it about this story that you wanted to do it in a dramatic way?
That's a good question. I think the answer is that I'm essentially, like a lot of people who are funny, I'm an essentially serious person. And the world seems so unfair and wrong, you know, like everything is inexplicable to me. All the best people are bald and overweight. Doesn't make any sense to me. It's not, you know. There's plenty more than that. That doesn't make sense. I think there's that, and I also think this guy, the actual person on whom the story is based, was a dear friend of mine, and I knew him and loved him, and the idea that somebody could have such a big part of their life hidden, and yet be able to keep that double life up for so long, and for so many people, really fascinated me. And you know, there's that old sort of bromide about everybody has one big story to tell. Well, this is like my big story. So that's kind of, I think, why I want to do it. And as an actor, I get to play serious things too. Sometimes I have a movie coming out, not too long from now, which I have a nice serious role, which I'm glad that I got this movie.
What's it called?
It's called Silver Lake, which is all about a community of artists in Silver Lake, most of whom are kind of, many of whom are kind of selfish and self-obsessed, and it's about how they interact with one another. Martin Starr is in it. Martin Starr. Anyway, so I have a nice serious role in that, but very often I'm called upon to play comedies. I think if you are pompous and particularly authoritative looking like I am, you sort of fit in the comedy bag easily. I think.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.